You're listening to Radio Free Rhinecliff.
Welcome to Studio Property, the cinema podcast for people like you. I'm Doug Wartell.
I'm Devin Irby, and this week we are discussing The Last Temptation of Christ by one Mr. Martin Scorsese, circa 1988. Wait, 89.
Yeah, it's 88.
Is it 88? Why did I panic for a second? Oh my God. You know what? It's because this movie did things to me.
1989, another summer, another color, sound of the funky drummer. They can't see it at home, but...
No, they cannot see it at home. Oh, people at home. We're going to have a talk. This is a real one. Be ready, everyone.
I came dressed for the part.
You did. Actually, you do look amazing.
Thank you. I'm dressed as Jesus, for those of you who can't see.
I do not know where you got that wig and beard, but it's amazing.
I figured if grown men can go on YouTube with no shame and do movie reviews in front of their childhood toys, I can dabble in a little artful blasphemy.
Okay.
So, behold my Messiah masquerade.
Understatement, listeners. Understatement.
Well, but we got to get this show started, but we have some business at the top here, and I'll get it out of the way now so we can just get into our conversation. Okay? All right. So, as most of our listeners know, the website has just come out. To answer a couple of questions right at the top, we will be adding some sort of discuss board or Discord sometime in the spring. We're also going to be doing a Patreon with exclusive content. That's going to happen. We haven't had a meeting about it yet. Ideally, we start having already done Kieslowski's Color Trilogy and having that ready for you when you join the Patreon. I like that idea. You like that?
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea a lot.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. So, we're there. We're working on it. We're not on autopilot here, people. No. So just letting you know that's happening. Also, our dear friend Heather Delamore will be performing her one-woman show, A Mother Stands Still, at the Performing Arts Center in Rhinebeck. Oh, where our friends work. Mick Gael and
Neil.
Yeah. And Neil, yeah. On March 8th and March 9th. For more information, we love Heather. Call 845-876-3080 or visit centerforperformingarts.org. It's amazing they got that URL. It's just a little theater. I think it's pretty amazing that they...
It's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. As is Heather. Yes. Folks, if you're in the area, you need to go see her. It's going to be good.
So I'm going to read this copy here at the top about our film, and then we'll get the show started.
Fantastic.
Okay, so Martin Scorsese was all set to begin filming The Last Temptation of Christ in September of 1983 with actor Aidan Quinn cast in the title role, and Sting already rehearsing as Pontius Pilate. Barbara Hershey had given Scorsese the controversial Kazistakis novel over a decade earlier, and now sets were being built in Israel. But the budget was growing out of control, and Paramount Studios were receiving hundreds of protest letters a day when word of the picture was leaked to the trades. After the UA theater chain threatened not to carry the film, Paramount had no choice but to pull the plug on the project. Scorsese begged and pleaded with the powers that be, "Please let me make my picture. I'll do anything you want. Really, give me any piece of shit you have. I'll even direct Flashdance 2. That's a true story." That's not hyperbole. That's a true story. But the decision had been made. 4 years and 2 movies later, the latter being Scorsese's biggest commercial success to date, The Color of Money, Universal Studios greenlit The Last Temptation of Christ for a third of the budget allotted the first version. A lot of ink has been spilled about a Jesus who would be tempted by women or family, but this film was about a hyper-aware human being not unlike James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, and an earned revolution of love. A revolution that welcomed both women and minorities to the Last Supper. It is about a traveler who observed and pitied us, not from the safe privilege afforded to people like Jack Kerouac, but from the belly of an oppressive regime and its angry people who were primed for a violent uprising. Damn straight this week we're covering The Last Temptation of Christ right after my cousin plays the theme song. Can you get to that, Devin?
Got it.
Amen.
Put that prop gun down. Put back the canisters you stole. The devil laughed out loud when you signed away your rotten soul. That's studio property. Your studio property. Hey! Shut your mouth or you'll never work in Hollywood again.
Ready to do some casting, etc. Casting crew.
Yeah, let's roll the credits. By the way, can you hear me okay through the beard?
Yes,
There's
actually,
like a little tiny hole, and his hair's getting in it.
I was gonna say there's a lot of mustache happening.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's very curly, and it's not really. It's ungroomed, which I believe is authentic. Yeah.
It is very ungroomed, and actually, there's some nice curls in it too.
Thank you. I combed it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Could you believe that my wife has to put up with all this in its original Aramaic? By the way, I decided to broadcast today from the desert. You look skeptical.
I'm very skeptical. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, close your eyes. Listen to the desert. Take it in.
Okay.
You need to get there with me. Ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Devin Swenya! Told you.
That's good. That was really good.
I'm here.
Well, I was skeptical because I used to live in the desert, and so I have opinions about the desert.
Oh,
Big
Vegas,
ones.
you mean?
Yep.
We lived there for a little while, too. When it
That's
rains,
right.
it's like every liar is crying at once.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's horrible.
It is horrible.
So let's roll credits and talk about your experience, because when we first logged in,
Yep.
I feel like you're shell-shocked.
I'm a little shell-shocked, but probably not for the reason you think. Okay, here we go. As stated up top, this is directed by one Martin Scorsese. This was, in fact, a passion project for him.
Mm-hmm.
Screenplay is by Paul Schrader, which I'm assuming at some point you're going to get into that the two of them had a little bit of a collaboration. They collaborated on several occasions, apparently.
Yes, Paul Schrader originally wrote Taxi Driver, straight up.
Okay.
And then he adapted Raging Bull, and he adapted this. And
nice.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I know we'll probably talk about that a little bit. We know that it's based on the 1955 novel, The Last Temptation of Christ by Nikos
Kazantzakis.
Thank you, Kazantzakis. Okay,
Yes.
Gosh. I practiced that a lot, and clearly that was still unsuccessful.
I made it a little song. That's how I got it. I was like, Kazantzakis, cha-cha-cha.
Oh, well that.
Yeah.
I love, okay, well, I wish I would have done that.
Hooked on phonics.
Cinematography by one Michael Ballhaus.
Yes, who collaborated with Martin Scorsese on several projects, but I have to, there's an asterisk there.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say asterisk correctly?
I think you did. Yeah,
yes.
You did.
Cha-cha-cha. So with the asterisk that every shot is navigated and mapped out by Marty himself and has largely been the case on all of his films.
Okay.
Most notably After Hours, the perspective of the keys being thrown out the window from the point of view of the keys, or when Tommy gets whacked in Goodfellas, the phone booth, the zoom that happens from like down the block to the phone booth. Yeah, all of those are all mapped out by Scorsese. So cinematography, he's operating the camera, but Martin Scorsese is the author of those shots.
Got it. Okay. That feels like, I feel like that explains a lot. Okay. Which we'll get into. Okay. And then music by one Peter Gabriel.
Hell yeah. That soundtrack is unbelievable.
There were a couple of points where I was like, huh. And then, because I hadn't noticed his name at the beginning of the credits, and then at the end, when it said Peter Gabriel, I was like, oh, that explains all my, Yep. I was like, okay, I got it.
And he had 7 years to compose this music, too, because he was signed on from the very beginning.
Oh, interesting. Did he keep going even after the first film got... Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He knew it would get made.
Well, somebody had faith in it. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Look at us punning.
Look at us punning. Woo!
Forgive us, for we not know what we do with our words.
And folks at home, you just don't know what he's doing. He's just playing with that wig and I'm getting distracted. All right.
Sorry.
All right. Nope, it's okay. And of course, okay, so
by the way, I'm not really biblically accurate. I'm wearing glasses, and I don't know if you know this. That was the big controversy with this movie, Devin. Is that they were like, Jesus was wearing glasses in the Last Temptation of Christ. That's what all the protests were about.
That's what it was about. Okay, that answers a lot of questions for me. Okay.
Yeah, they were like, Jesus saw fine. He had perfect vision. What are you trying to say?
Right. You're like, no, he was Jesus. It was fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of Jesus, Jesus is played by one Willem Dafoe.
Who at the time, we'll just get all this nerd stuff out of the way.
Love it.
Was coming off an Oscar nomination for Platoon, and Marty had seen him in To Live and Die in L.A. You'll see a lot of the films we've already covered converge. Yep. But again, Aidan Quinn, pre-Desperately Seeking Susan, was supposed to be Jesus, but could not do it this time around. So when he gets to Willem Dafoe is teaching an acting class because he had the Oscar curse happen to him where he was waiting for the right project for a year and then ended up doing another war movie after Platoon that wasn't well received.
Okay.
It was kind of a piece of duty. When he did read the script, he immediately got it and was like, and had no reservation whatsoever about it. He was like, no, I'm the guy to do this, clearly.
Okay. Interesting.
So, yeah.
Okay. So Willem Dafoe as Jesus. Harvey Keitel is Judas Iscariot, and I have big opinions on that red hair. Barbara Hershey is Mary Magdalene.
Yes.
Harry Dean Stanton is Saul/Paul, one of the zealots. And of course, in a small but delightful role, David Bowie as Pontius Pilate.
Yes. Quick question, though. John. What was John's real name? Because he was in a band called The Call.
What was his real name? Hold on a second. John.
And they had a hit made into like a bigger hit because of Al Gore's campaign, his doomed campaign in 2000.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Michael Biehn.
His son is in a great cult band called Black Rebel Motorcycle Club.
Really?
So at night, when the disciples would hang out in the hotel between shooting, they would just all be, because they were all musicians, Bowie would come around and they just all jam till the middle of the night. But they only played like Under the Boardwalk over and over again because they were half in the back. And at one point, Scorsese had to come up in his bathrobe and be like, look, it's getting better, but I need to get up at 5 a.m. And so, that was a true story. That's why they're very close in the film. That's because they had spent nights jamming on the one song throughout the shoot.
Dear Lord. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the camaraderie between the disciples was good. It was solid. So that would explain it.
Well, I'm going to let you get this out of your system before we begin. You came in a little skittish.
I did.
So what did you think about the film?
I didn't like it at all.
I
disliked it so much.
Okay. Not for everyone.
Okay. Not for everyone. Now, listen, folks at home. I want to make sure I explain this well. To me, there was a tremendous amount of potential for this film to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The content of the book, I think, is very interesting. The way you described it at the top of the show, that is a movie I wanted to see. I felt like that wasn't the movie I saw. I thought Willem Dafoe was really good. I thought Barbara Hershey was really good. I didn't even think Harvey Keitel was bad. But there was something about it where the entire time I felt like I was missing something. And I just kept thinking this missing thing will show up and then I'll be really excited and I'll get it. And I just felt like I got to the end of the film and it didn't come in. I didn't like the cinematography at all. I don't know. It just there. Yeah, I didn't like the cinematography. The music was good. The music was fine. I liked the folk, the effort at accurate folk music. I liked that. And for the most part, I liked Peter Gabriel. So like that was fine. But there were definitely a couple points where I was like, it was a little too Wang Chung-y for me a couple times where I was just like, I don't know if I'm feeling it in this moment. Or maybe the better description would be Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette, where it was just all modern music. There were just a couple points where I was like, that feels too modern in this moment. Overall, like I said, I don't know what it There was also something about the way certain aspects of the story were presented that just seemed to lack a clarity to me that I just
I understand that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because there were definitely
Can you give an example?
Okay. So, a good example would be so Jesus has revved everybody up, and then Palm Sunday comes, and he's on that donkey, and he gets in to the temple, and things are going to be big, and they're waiting for this revolution.
That's funny, because that is a scene I specifically wanted to talk about. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, we're here. Let's just go with that scene. Okay. Yes.
Well, to me, I felt Harvey Keitel's pain that it just came across as though Jesus completely wimped out, which is fine for understanding what was happening.
Let me describe the scene for the audience for a moment.
Yes. Okay. Please do. Yes.
Jesus is heading into the temple where the money lenders are, and he wants them out of the temple. And he's essentially starting a riot, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he had just a couple scenes before visited that temple and told the Israelites to their face that God is not an Israelite.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He belongs to all people, right? So he wants the money lenders out of the temple, and he's screaming and hollering. That's an incredible scene. He's flipping tables.
Yep.
Money is going everywhere. There's that amazing shot of the money in the air. Incredible.
Yeah, it was good.
Incredible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the soldiers are coming, and like I described at the top of the episode, people are primed for a revolution. This is the battle, the conflict that Jesus is going through. The Jesus of this film, between love and the axe. Right. The axe being a metaphor for revolution, but for violence.
Right.
Political violence.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, when the soldiers come, and I believe it's a John or Peter who says, "Give the word," or Judas, give the word.
Yeah.
Give the word, that meaning we're ready to fight. And Jesus is like, no. And it's in that moment he's teaching his apostles and the audience a lesson about edging. No, let me stop. And it's just a theme throughout the movie, right? And I don't want to get into a position where I'm like, well, Devin, let me explain the movie to you, because everything you said is absolutely valid. I've seen this movie several times and thought different things about it each time, right?
Yeah.
It's only in this viewing that I feel like I understood it fully.
Okay.
That I understood it because, to me, it's more relevant now than 1955. This is the same lesson that you were describing. When he backs off at that moment, he also gets the stigmata. He also, it's communicated kind of poorly because he looks physically weak.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because he's getting to the point where where it looks like he's headed for a full-on political confrontation, and then turns around and decides this isn't the way. And
right.
Because earlier in the film, he spells it out for you, and that was, you can change leaders over and over again, but you still have the poison in you. Until we change as a people, we're going to keep doing this.
Yes.
And that's the lesson of that's the through line of the whole film.
Right.
And this is why I compared it to, regardless of my problems with Kerouac as a person or a thing or whatever, I compare it to that specific essay, because The Revolution of Love by Jack Kerouac. I believe it's in On the Road. I could be wrong. It's been a minute. And I'm old enough to be your religion. But that, to me, is what the film was about. It was about learning to let love be a universal guide and not a personal one. And it being its own revolution, and it being its own proactive thing. Understanding love and mercy.
Yeah.
The scene, it's interesting to me because I could have done without the miracles in this version. Right?
Yeah.
And look, this isn't about theology. And I'm not doing it. I'm not wearing any of this to be offensive. It's fun, right? But we're having a serious conversation about a wonderful movie.
Right.
The Jesus that we saw in this film as opposed to Jesus of Nazareth.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, even the Passion, right? Which, by the way, sidebar, Devin, I don't know if you know this. I wrote a musical about the making of the Passion.
I think I did know that. I did
true
know
story.
that.
Yeah, I have demos floating around. Yeah, it's really good. So, because the story of the making of that movie is a comedy of errors. But
Ooh, yeah.
But that being said, this is the first movie I ever saw where Jesus has women and minorities at the Last Supper.
Mm-hmm.
Or when he insists they're a part of this revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is 1988,
Right?
Which wasn't 1955, but it ain't 2025 either, if you know what I mean. So without getting into that conversation, this movie and the way Willem Dafoe's portrayal of Jesus plays out is the most human Jesus I've ever seen. It is more of a miracle when the disciples fall under, I don't want to say spell, right? So, but they fall under his influence or fall in love with him as a person the moment he stands up for Mary Magdalene. They didn't need the proof of Lazarus. They didn't need the blind guy to see or the water to wine. They didn't need all those things that were probably hyperbole in the first place. Right. I've been drunk with friends that had big personalities. I'd be like, yeah, he was the life of the party. He turned water into wine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, speculating. But like, we didn't need all that. We didn't need, like I said, we didn't need him to bring someone actually back to life to understand what the mission was.
I think you may have just made my point or clearly enunciated what my problem was, which was, you are correct. He is the most human version of Jesus I've ever seen portrayed on film. And there were so many aspects of that were really good. Yeah, he brings others to the table in a way that you don't really see or haven't seen in other versions of this film. But I felt like the spectacularness of the intent of the point that was being made was lost because there were just other elements that for me just pulled me out every other turn. Oh, that beard just pulled me out every other turn.
It's bothering me. That's why.
So like, okay, so let me think, what is a good example? Well, I guess it wasn't the first scene with Mary Magdalene. It'd be the second one with her. Okay, so the first scene with Mary Magdalene, I didn't feel like there was a clear explanation as to why she spit on Jesus. Like, I didn't understand what that, I mean, I know something was trying to be conveyed, but again, there was just like a lack of clarity.
You're talking about in the beginning?
In the beginning. Yeah, and I was like, okay. So I immediately go, I missed something.
Okay, so that's a forward storytelling that comic books use a lot of the time, right? Like where you see something and you become curious about something and then it's sort of explained to you later, right? So like, she spit on him. Also, he's making crosses, so he's killing his own people. There's that. But there's also, as you learn in the, in the brothel, they had a relationship when they were children. She loves him. She's in love with him. She would rather debase herself than move on from her love for Jesus. Like that's her love for him is
No, I know.
It's in her life. It's the mission of her life.
Right. The second scene with Mary Magdalene is literally all those guys waiting in the hallway for their turn because she's a prostitute. And Jesus waiting until everybody else is gone and then sitting down and talking to her. Obviously, they start with an argument, then they have an actual conversation, then they kind of attempt to sit down and almost eat dinner together. And like you said, in that moment, we suddenly get a bunch of backstory. And you're right. And she does say like how much she loved him when they were children and whatnot. But again, it's presented in such a way that somehow it just didn't work for me. I didn't feel like I was getting, like I thought I know kind of those questions were answered, but I didn't think they were answered well. And
that's fair. I mean,
right. And I just felt like it left more questions than answers. And that for me was the whole film. I just felt like every time I thought I got a piece of information, it also gave me 5 more questions. And then maybe only 2 of those questions felt like they were being answered. Right.
Sure.
And then, like you said, it was this really human version of him. And I wanted to like it because I wanted that, because I like the intent of the novel.
Mm-hmm.
I ultimately like the intent of the film. Like you said, love, you have to change who you are as a person before you can change leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting all of his disciples on board, and they're starting to understand, but even so, they're not fully understanding. And then they're trying to convey to a lot of other people. And then he's got to make those tough decisions of, okay, I can't do the easy thing. I have to do the hard thing, because the hard thing is going to be the thing that has the biggest impact.
Right.
Right. So that's such an amazing concept, and actually being done with the story of Jesus and done well was something I was really excited about, because most of the time, every other version of Jesus I've seen, it always feels like
the other versions. I hate to interrupt you, but like the other versions might as well be MCU films, right? Like, what's the difference between the guy who brings back Lazarus? Like, give him an Infinity Gauntlet already.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh yeah, my favorite part is like when Jesus snaps his fingers and goes like, I am Iron Man.
Yes.
Like, you might as well.
Right. You might as well.
I love this version. If I had a Christ, I hate to say Willem Dafoe is my Jesus, even though he's probably the actor we've seen act more than anyone in our lifetime. Right? Like, if you think about it.
Well, him and Samuel L. Jackson.
Right. It's done more than anybody.
Right.
And according to Mondo, Eric Roberts, right? Like, so yeah.
Yes,
but
of course.
Personally, I think I've seen more Willem Dafoe movies than anything. Mm-hmm. Just, but.
Yeah. No, but and like I said, no, you're right. He's good. And
I feel like I'm blaspheming Willem Dafoe now. Like, I'm disrespecting Willem Dafoe.
I feel like I'm also about to blaspheme a lot. So I feel like maybe we should have put something on the top of the show and been like, hey, listeners, be prepared.
Be prepared for blasphemy. You want the devil, better ask for me. I'm just writing a musical right now.
I love it. No, I love it.
Yeah.
So, okay. I love audio books, and I particularly I've started getting into I have
an 8-year-old, so I don't have a choice but audiobooks.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I like the great courses. I love educational things like that, right? So like Masterclass, the great courses, those kinds of things. I love all that. And I listened to a great courses that was about Confucius, Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad. And what I loved about it is it talks about all 4 strictly from the standpoint of their humanity, right? Because that's part of the thing is, even if you're not a religious person, or let's say specifically you're not Christian, there's enough information out there to know that Jesus was a person who lived, right? Like more than likely he was a person who lived.
Yeah, there's like a shroud or something.
Right.
He was like, there's a blanket that goes on tour sometimes.
Yes, blanket that goes on tour sometimes. In Italy for some reason. But
well, he's all the rage out there.
He is all the rage out there.
Yeah, he's like their Timothy Chalamet.
Oh, wholeheartedly, he's their Timothy Chalamet. Yeah, 100%. So, as a person preaching this concept is in fact revolutionary in itself, right? So we're making the argument, love versus the axe, and the axe being like the metaphor for revolution, right? And you've got some really put upon people, right, that really do want their lives to improve. I mean, how many times in the history of the world has that happened, right? And it you get these great, leaders who come about and who are like, yeah, we need to do something better. And what I think is amazing foundationally about Jesus is that he came to it saying, we have to be better as a people, and why we need to fight hate with love. That story could be told in a way that wasn't patronizing. Every other version of Jesus on film feels patronizing. That's what it is.
Absolutely. If you look at some of the films about Jesus before, he's already like bathed in light. Whereas this version, you're not sure if you want to follow him. You're not sure if he's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He is, because he's human and conflicted, and he's not sure. And it's not until he becomes more certain does he even execute even parts of his mission. And
Right.
even then he wavers because he's human. He's, like, he's uncertain. He just knows, I opened my mouth and the word love came out.
Right.
And even he doesn't understand why. He doesn't understand that. When he goes to the desert and is tempted by Satan a whole bunch of times, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's given the axe. Part of him believes it.
Right.
Part of him's like, this might be the way. And this is where he has what I guess we would call the failure at the temple, even though it is really the moment he himself becomes clear.
Right.
Because the stigmata tells him he's right about his path.
Right. Right.
So, and then it becomes certain about his own sacrifice, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, again, I've never been so clear about what the film was about until this last viewing, because I've been all different ages. I've been all different ages having seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been caught up in different aspects of it that, by the way, to your point, are no longer relevant to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
There are some camera maneuvers that we know are done by influencers now.
Right.
Like you see, like an influencer. Like, did you see it? Like at the crucifixion with his phone. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like, hey, we're here at the crucifixion. Now look, everybody's here is high AF. Look at this.
I know.
Oh my God! Wait, check this out. Peter, he put a GoPro on Jesus. Check that. Whoa.
Yeah.
Like when that cross goes up.
Yeah.
He's up behind him. Like.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's an Instagram story now.
You're right.
That was revolutionary camera work back then. But yeah.
Well, and I think.
Thank God I got the green screen, because I'm definitely going to edit that in there.
Yeah. Oh my God. It'll be amazing. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So, this is good, because I didn't want to poop all over this movie.
No, you're not.
Love,
you are not wrong. And this is the point of these conversations.
Yeah, right. I feel like you're understanding what I'm conveying. And
absolutely.
I think the other, so the first part is that whole, it's a revolutionary concept of love, love versus hate. It's a revolutionary concept to tell a story about Jesus in a very human way. Right?
Yeah.
Or at least for that at that time, right? At the same time, I think at the end I was like, Martin Scorsese did a bit too much. There were just elements that felt unfinished and pretentious. And I just wanted this really good movie about his inner dilemma. I just wanted to experience the dilemma and how hard being a good person is hard, people.
I wouldn't know, but that's crazy. But I do love the final temptation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's being pushed, right? Like, especially the concept of the one woman. Well, it's all one woman. Like,
I got thoughts on that too. Ugh.
Well, it's Satan. It's clearly Satan telling him that. So
I know it's Satan telling him that, but coming down off the cross and saying, it's okay, you did the thing you're supposed to do, and now you get to be happy and you get to be human, and finding joy with Mary Magdalene, I bought that 100%. I was like, okay, I got this. But when she dies, and then he basically ends up a weird polygamous relationship with two sisters, I immediately was like, I know you've been pushed to the edge, bro, but you can't tell me you didn't know it was Satan at that point. One woman is an insane concept. It's an insane concept. Being
a douchebag.
But he's Jesus. He is Jesus, and he held off and he held off and he held off.
But which Jesus were you interested in? Were you interested in the guy who at that point, right, grieving over Magdalene dying, right? Now he's got children, right? Then he has the rebound relationship.
Right.
And now he's being pushed by Satan like, hey, aren't you horny for the other one? And Yeah, I get what you're saying. It does seem like a bit much, but only if you're holding on to Jesus being not human. You know what I mean? Like at that point, he is lost.
I don't know. I think I argue that too because, dude, they're sisters. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, John Lennon's done worse. You know, like
I mean, I would have responded better if it was just like they're tribal peoples and having more than one wife is a thing. That I would have bought a million times more easily, but weirdly being sucked in to be like, it's one woman, doesn't matter. They were sisters and it was weird.
Devin,
How do you
they
not
don't
have a
have
limit?
streaming services. They don't have cell phones. They don't have video games. What do they have to do there?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's basically Arkansas, right?
Well, but they're not. I mean, I think
Let's
about
look at some of our relatives for 5 seconds.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I am expecting more because it's Jesus.
Yeah.
But I think I'm expecting more too because he was better. I don't know. Well, you just made a really good point about the whole it's Arkansas. Clearly, we have no listeners from Arkansas. We have no listeners from Arkansas. So there's nobody to get offended because anybody who lives in Arkansas currently is not listening to us.
No. And if they are, they know their relative. They know what I'm talking about.
They do. They do.
I'm not talking about you, Little Rock or Fort Smith.
No.
But Desark, I'm talking to you.
And you know what? In fairness, like you said,
El Dorado, especially you.
We are aware because we've.
I'm not even looking at a map right now.
As I say, we are like we have sat on the sidelines of some large family shenanigans, and we're like, I mean, you know,
yeah, with our nose in the air, like we're any better.
That's right.
But like we're any better. Yeah, Jesus had a really rough week. He lost his girl. He's got these kids now, and now you're telling me there's not going to be one support system, but two. And you don't got Netflix? Yeah. I'm sorry. Gotta disagree with you on that one.
All right. I mean, we can definitely agree to disagree. It's the fact that they're sisters.
And he hates himself. Like nobody who enters a polygamous relationship likes themselves at all. At all.
That's fair.
You're just like if you're gonna welcome another headache, there you go.
Yeah.
Why must we crucify ourselves?
Oh my gosh.
I haven't thought about that business in a long time. Shout out to Tori Amos. Right. But yeah, the other Kate Bush. But yeah, I feel like I understand where you're coming from. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I knew it was going to be conflicting for you on a couple levels, right? Because I mean, Scorsese isn't for everyone, especially this period of Scorsese.
Yeah.
To your point, a lot of the camera stuff is dated. Mm-hmm. Although what still holds up is Thelma Shoemaker's editing and the wedding scene. Wow. Oh, you go from the slaughtered lamb right to the bride, back to Jesus outside going like, well, the law isn't, consistent with my heart or whatever. Like,
right.
All of that.
Yeah.
Was great.
That was good. No, that is good. That is very good.
I do disagree about the music. I love Peter Gabriel's score.
It was just a couple points where it really fell off to me, where I was like, I don't want Sledgehammer to be rolling in the back of my head right now. That's kind of where I was. There's very specifically a scene where it like does a jump cut to Jesus and a bunch of the guys walking down a hill, and the way the music hit, which is why it was extra funny to me when I realized it was Peter Gabriel at the end of the film, because I was like, what is this, Sledgehammer? Yeah, and then I was like,
and it was. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, and then I felt like, I wasn't wrong.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
Let's get into the scene with John the Baptist, because I love that scene. I love the meeting of the minds. Mm-hmm. And John the Baptist immediately recognizes him. When he turns around, he's like, "Who are you?" And then he's sort of,
yeah.
And Jesus isn't sure, because this is a Jesus who, up until that point, is still experiencing imposter syndrome.
Right. He definitely is.
And he's like, "No, what do you see? What do you see in me?" You know? And that is, again, the most relatable Jesus I've ever seen on film, right?
Oh, definitely.
And then they're back and forth on this conflict between love and the axe.
Right.
And then when Jesus goes to the snake hut, like in his meditation where the two snakes, all that stuff I love, right? So although I don't know, and I understand that primarily the movie's the relationship with Judas and Mary Magdalene. So a lot of the snakes' voices are either or. And I don't know that works. I don't know that holds up. But although I do love the three relationships, I don't know that the snake stuff works. But the idea that a ghost had let him know.
Yeah, I did like that.
That the mission, that John's felt okay about dying because his mission he had got to meet the Christ before he was beheaded.
Right.
I thought it was wonderful. So what did you think of the John the Baptist business?
I thought it was a bit much. I like the idea that we were getting a real intense version of John the Baptist, because that's how I read him, right? That's how I read him when I'm, I think of the Bible as a book and as a story, and that's how I would read him. And so I like that zealotry. I like that intensity. I liked how they came together. I loved that conversation, but it was too much for me. I just thought it was a bit too, when you meet John the Baptist, I just thought we had walked into a cult.
Yeah.
And my thought was, I mean, I guess to a certain extent that is exactly what's happening, right? Because
you're not wrong.
If you're building a new religion, you are essentially starting by building a cult. And I think every new religion, I'm going to get in trouble. Every new religion in some aspect, it does kind of start as a cult before it expands and kind of gets bigger. I mean,
there are actors who pray to like Chewbacca. Like, it's okay to say what you're saying. Like, there are very prominent members of our entertainment world who take Teton tests or whatever. So, you're not wrong.
But you know what I'm saying, and I feel like that initial group does kind of tend to be very zealoty about it, right? Like, if zealoty is a word, but that's like that kind. So it was just so aggressive and so intense, and I thought, but half of the beauty of John the Baptist is this sort of, I'm waiting for this person, I'm waiting for the Messiah, I'm waiting for this thing. This is him. And to have that interaction and to have it in such a lovely human way, I thought that was so great. And I enjoyed that a lot. But it just felt like then everything that happened before, I was like, how are you calm enough to have this conversation after you just, it was just so crazy.
But even John the Baptist wants what Judas wants. And Jesus is still telling him he's wrong.
That's true.
To some extent, like everyone around Jesus wants an uprising and wants political violence. And that's the most interesting part of this entire film. And I don't know how accurate to the book that is, but that is a wonderful idea. Like, even John the Baptist is like, the axe, we got to, and Jesus is like, I don't think that's the way, pal.
Maybe one of the things that could have made it a little bit better for me would have been, I wonder if we would have had more from the Romans, so we could have felt more of that oppression and the reality of what the oppression they were living under. You know what I mean? Maybe that would have made me feel, because you're right, because there's so much and Judas is so aggressive, right? About the.
Okay, so
Let's watch this scene. Are we going to watch it? Did you?
No.
Okay.
I didn't pull any clips on this week because I knew what this conversation was gonna be. But also, I turned the phone lines off. Like, I'm not here to play. I'm here to talk this out.
We're going to talk this through. I like it.
The relationship with Judas, I think, is the film to me.
Right.
We see this Jesus through Judas's eyes. Judas, who was sent there to kill him initially for being a troublemaker, and then and now again, this is not the Judas of the Bible. This isn't someone who's just like, I'm going to betray him because I'm a dick, right?
Right.
No, like, it's part of the mission.
Right.
I thought this Judas is 1,000% like almost the main character of the movie.
Yeah. No, he was good. It was good. I liked that dynamic. Yeah.
I guarantee you know what's going to happen? One day you're going to be up, and it could be many years from now. You could be like in your 70s, and it's going to be on some late night ass thing or whatever. By then it'll be like your late night hologram, right?
Yes.
And it's going to come on, and you're going to like be too tired to reach for the, your own hand to speak into it, because by then that'll be how we're controlling our televisions. Yeah. And you're going to watch it. You're going to be like, holy shit, this isn't as terrible as I thought.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. You might be right. You might be right.
You and I, now that we've seen this movie, we were around when Jesus Christ had his moment.
Yes.
Several moments. More than like 20 moments of doubt and shame. True.
It is true. It is true.
Yeah.
Actually, that also just reminded me.
Woo! Sorry.
That was it was a good impression.
Thank you.
Folks at home, you missed it. I'm not even going to
right.
explain it because you just missed it, and it was amazing.
So Scorsese had a $7 million budget, which even then is less than a B movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like he's doing takes. He's like, he's got it. Not even looking at dailies. He's like, okay, nope, got it. Move setup. Some shots had like up to 28 setups, right?
Really?
For a scene. Yeah. Insane stuff, especially a lot of the crucifixion stuff. Like, and the long hours that Willem was up on the cross. Crazy stuff, right? But $7 million budget in Morocco, right? It was originally going to be shot in Israel. The budget was a lot bigger. Erwin Kirshner was the producer at the time, but he was also doing the right stuff. And so he was like, both of those budgets at the same time wasn't going to work for him. So, but ultimately, again, Paramount pulled it. So they got to, they got to go at Universal. But like $7 million, let me tell you how cheap that is. It is so cheap that Barbara Hershey was applying her own henna tattoos.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and if they would get washed off or whatever, she would be reapplying them. Not a crew of makeup people. She was doing it herself.
She looked good, by the way.
Yeah, she looked really amazing. Good.
Yeah.
And even though she was the one who gave him that book back in 1972, she gives Scorsese that book.
Yeah.
He still put her through a 3-month audition process.
Okay, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. But $7 million, that budget is crazy. They're getting shots and moving on to the next thing. And, that's why a lot of things are very rushed. But again, like a lot of films, I don't want to say saved, but in Martin Scorsese's case, because he's done so much amazing, incredible work. Thelma Schoonmaker's work in editing on this in some places is unbelievable. The wedding is the first thing that comes to mind. That wedding scene and her editing and where she chooses to go, because that was all supposed to be a montage.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm glad we had this conversation.
Me too.
I'm excited that you saw it. Because at this point it'll at the very least become a point of reference, right?
Oh yes, I'm not sad I saw it. I'm looking straight at you, listeners. I am not sad that I saw it.
Right. You're also looking straight at Jesus. Well,
yeah, looking straight at Jesus.
But it's time to get to America's favorite segment. Let's franchise this comma, baby.
Woo.
If this is your first time tuning in, this is the segment in which Devin and I like to repurpose the content we were just discussing into either a remake or a sequel or however we see fit to make the most money. Doom, doo, doo, doom, 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 doom.
All the money.
Because if we are anything here at Studio Property, it is cash money how. So.
It is very much cash money hose around here, if you haven't figured that out.
So
listener.
I think we go remake. Because clearly, just for you, it needs to be remade. You have a Jesus movie in mind. I think that I will agree with you on this point.
Okay.
I think Paul Schrader, knowing what I know about the Kazantzakis novel, Paul Schrader really ripped this to the studs.
Okay.
You know, like there's a lot more to it. Like he could have, there are a lot of places he could have gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And some of those places are probably necessary more now than in 1988. Right?
True. Yeah, I would agree.
So I would love to see this just better realized.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't have a screenwriter in mind. I don't. Because I was really looking forward to the conversation more than I was talking about the remake.
Yeah.
But we can have fun with it while we're here.
Sounds good. And I had one thought. So I'm going to let you go through your remake, and then I'm going to tell you my one big idea.
Okay, so my remake would be a closer telling to the novel, right?
Okay,
so I don't know.
I
don't know who the screenwriter would be. Jesus, I want to see Oscar Isaac.
Oh yeah. I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Oscar Isaac can do anything. But,
yes, he can.
But we need somebody who can really hold their own as Jesus, and I think Oscar Isaac can do this easy peasy, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. My initial thought was a sadistic one, which is I wanted to see Timothée Chalamet for no other reason is let's just skip to the end. Again, I might have mentioned this earlier. Not a good person.
Okay.
But I mean, if we're going to make this in earnest, Oscar Isaac is my Jesus.
Okay.
Judas, again, this we keep the same idea here. Strangely enough, I don't know. I just see it clearly in my head. Jude Law.
Okay.
As Judas.
Yep.
All right. Magdalene. Now, we could talk like cold-hearted producers, right?
Yo, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I gotta sell this fucking movie, right? Like,
okay,
I need a soundtrack. You know,
yeah.
I need it to be a phenomenon. Like, I need Jesus Christ Superstar. I want songs, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if it's a credit song, I at least want a Titanic theme out of this bitch.
Oh,
right.
Yep.
At least that, right?
Yes.
Like, if we're not going to sell merch, we're totally going to sell merch. But like,
right? Yeah.
Mary Magdalene, Lady Gaga.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, Lady Gaga.
Yep. Cash money hose.
Yeah,
got it.
And we probably get the soundtrack on the cheap.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Soundtrack becomes a bonus at that point. Yeah.
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 So they're the three most important characters. You could fill the apostles with whoever. I mean, I don't think any of them really. That's
kind of how I felt about the original version. I was like, am I supposed to care or know who any of these guys are?
Although Harry Dean Stanton's Paul was, because I don't know if you know this, the scene where he says, when he kills Lazarus and he goes, give me your hand. He came up with that.
Really?
And they showed it to Marty, and then they're like, damn, how he kills Lazarus. That's
okay.
Yeah, but Harry Dean Stanton's not with us to reprise this role.
No,
or any role.
But yeah, and almost a little cameo. Yeah, he was. I did think he was rather perfect because Saul/Paul was a crazy character. So I thought it was good. Yeah, I thought he was very good.
I loved when Paul was in the alternate reality because what the $7 million budget did not allow was us to really feel what was happening to Israel because Jesus didn't sacrifice himself. It's one of the most important parts of the film, and it doesn't hit you because there's no budget.
Yep.
You see some red lights and you hear about it, but you don't actually get the impact. Israel is killing itself.
Right.
In a revolution that is going to fail because Jesus did not sacrifice himself on the cross.
Yep.
I would argue this is the only movie where you're angry if Jesus doesn't kill himself.
Okay.
I'm not saying that to be funny. Like you're like, get the fuck back on that cross where you belong.
Yeah.
Because even that alternate temptation, where he's sort of stuck in this alternate reality, being tempted by Satan, the mission for Satan is for him to die in that reality. Then, what is the word for it? There's a holy word for it. The sacrifice, the Christening, whatever it is, the quickening, whatever. Like if the quickening doesn't happen, right? Israel falls. Right. So if Satan can keep him in that alternate reality and he dies in that alternate reality, Satan wins because Israel has now destroyed itself. There's no leaders, but there's no people either. Everyone is slaughtered, right? And that's Satan's mission, right? So the point that you are not getting is the point they could not afford to show you clearly.
Right. Okay. Maybe
that's the point of the film.
Right.
He needs to get the hell off that crate and get the hell back on that cross. If he dies in that reality, he dies in that reality.
Right.
So the point of bringing all that up is we're going to need more than $7 million.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So
yes, indeed.
Yeah. So we need a studio that's going to endure some of the controversy.
Yes.
I mean, like you think Christians were vocal then? I mean, don't get me started. They're worse than Harry Potter fans now.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. You know, like Harry Potter fans, directors wouldn't dare change anything that drastically. You know, that's all I'm saying. We don't do politics here. It would have been savage. So, but yeah. So that being said, who's our Paul? That was the point of me going on that whole long rant. Paul is very necessary to convey what is happening to Israel.
Okay.
Although we'll be able to afford to show it a little bit.
Okay. Hold on. Let's look. Paul should be. Ooh, I don't think I have anybody on my list that works. Because yes, I keep a running list of potential people.
I do too, and I keep playing them by mistake. Like I need to really hold on to Daniel Craig a little harder than I've been.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
also that really awful belief of mine that Alana Haim should be in everything.
It's not awful. It's not awful at all. That might be a good play for Andrew Scott.
Oh.
Right? I feel like that's solid.
Oh, that's good. I like it.
Yeah.
I feel like even that was so solid that you should do like you just ended a breakdance, like cross your arms.
I got to do that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Snotty face.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So I like it. Andrew Scott there. Okay. So who do we get for no, I think those are the all important. Pontius Pilate.
Oh, we do need a good
Don't
Pontius
say Post Malone. Nobody say Post Malone. We're not interested.
I wasn't even thinking Post Malone.
No, I'm talking to the audience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I wasn't gonna say Post Malone. No. Pontius Pilate. Who would be a good Pontius Pilate? Okay, I'm gonna say who immediately popped into my head, but I don't know. I think it's pulling out the big guns and it maybe not necessary. Immediately I thought of Christoph Waltz.
Because it's good.
Because it's like a slight clean cut bad guy, but extremely proper.
Gonna kill Jesus. That's a bingo.
Right? Yeah. That's
I think that'd be good.
I think that's good.
Christoph Waltz
just sort of like a little I don't know. I feel like yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like that. Okay.
All right. So clearly the director is going to be the guy who did The Brutalist. Right? Because we're in a hurry. We're in a hurry.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Okay.
Cinematography is the guy who did The Brutalist because we're in a hurry. And, like I said, Cash Money Hose. So, yeah.
Oh, but you didn't say who was going to do our soundtrack. That's the other thing that...
I did. Lady Gaga.
Duh.
Oh, who's going to score it? Who's going to score it?
We need somebody to do that.
I got it. Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. He did...
He
did There Will Be Blood. And I believe he won an Oscar. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Johnny Greenwood. Look at me.
Look at you go.
Look at me go. It. Oh, cinematography. We give this one to Deakins, clearly. You stick Deakins in a desert. gold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's sad that he couldn't do Dune. But
I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
yeah.
Okay, so as much as I had a lot of issues with this film, it did make me realize something, which is I do want a good humanized Jesus film. I do.
Yeah.
I want a good one. And so your remake, this is fantastic. And I think if it sticks closer to the original novel, I think it's got a shot, and I look forward to it. But what I really want is I want somebody to make Lamb, The Gospel According to Biff, Christ's Childhood Pal by Christopher Moore. That's what I want. All right, listeners. Christopher Moore is a comedic writer, and he tends to write either kind of religious, kind of science fiction. He's fantastic. And his book, Lamb, The Gospel According to Biff, Christ's Childhood Pal, literally it is the Jesus I love. It is the Jesus that I think the world needs. It's very human. It's very hysterical. But at the same time, Jesus is taking his mission to save humanity very seriously. And it is a lot to put on a young person to know that they are the Son of God. And it follows all the years, all the missing years from the Bible. In that version, he and his best friend Biff is actually Levi, but is known as Biff because it's the noise that's made when his mother bops him across the head. Because he needs a good smack in the head now and again. Yep, apparently. They go to visit all three of the wise men. And it turns out it is
Ad Rock, MCA, and Mike D.
Precisely, yeah. So it's all these things he learns while he tries to figure out how is he going to fulfill his mission, and as you say, while still being very human. And then having a sidekick who is along for the ride, but also, like Judas Iscariot in this story, being very supportive. So that's what I want. I want that book to be made into a film. And I think that would make me really happy.
I think that's good too. I think that both of these films can exist.
Right? I think they can. I think they can.
They can be released side by side, like Octopussy and Never Say Never Again.
Yes. Boom.
Now I'm doing the rat pose.
Now you're doing the rat pose. I love it. Done.
Well, thank you for joining us this week in this wonderful conversation about The Last Temptation of Christ. Next week, allegedly, Mondo returns for the Life and Death of Colonel Blimp episode.
Right.
Which shares DNA, by the way, with this episode.
How so?
So it was directed by Powell and Pressburger.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Thelma Schoonmaker met Powell in 1983. I think she picked him up at the airport or something for an exhibition at the Whitney that Martin Scorsese was doing in his honor. I believe this is the story.
Oh.
Yeah, she married him the following year.
Awesome.
All the film students were like, Thelma, don't evoke the name of Thelma. The holiest of holy Thelma. I mean, they're not wrong, but
no.
But that's like for scale. Like if you're Martin Scorsese, right? And you know, like they were married until he passed away in 1990, right? But for scale, that's like me going to you, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do something in honor of Ian MacKaye from Fugazi. Can you go get him at the airport? And then you come back and you're like, I'm marrying Ian MacKaye from Fugazi. And I'm like, well, crap. I have all of his records. Wait, you collected him. It's weird. It's weird. It's gotta be weird. Gotta be weird. So that being said, Powell and Pressburger have made some of the greatest films of all time. The Red Shoes, Black Narcissus, I Know Where I Was.
I'm excited because this is our first foray for the show going into Powell and Pressburger.
Yes.
So I've really, really been looking forward to this episode. And we're starting with something I haven't seen. I'm very, very stoked about this one, people.
I forgot to mention Matter of Life and Death. It's in my top 3 of their film, definitely. Very excited to get into this one. You know what, Devin? I don't think you're going to hate this one at all. Not at all.
I don't think I will. Yeah.
No, it's wonderful. No. Also, Scorsese, for all intents, just so you, the audience, know, and also Devin, so you know, both Scorsese and Thelma Schoonmaker have restored more movies than you and I have ever seen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So all of the Powell and Pressburger stuff has been rescued, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of it's in Technicolor, which is a process of 3 color film strips, right? Blue, yellow, red, right?
Mhm.
All shooting at the same time and then layered on top of each other. Now, if you can imagine, some of those films are from the 30s and 40s, so they're out of sync, right? So they had to digitally go in and realign the strips and make it perfect in sync, which it never was. So we get to see these films. And by the way, you could rent The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, but you could also see it on the Criterion channel. And also, if you have a chance to watch it with the commentary, do so. It is in the commentary section of the Criterion channel. And it's wonderful. Scorsese, and I believe Thelma is on it as well.
Oh, nice. I'm excited about that.
When you see these films, know that you're seeing them better than the original theatrical release. Because they're perfectly in sync, they're perfectly restored, and they're gorgeous. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp is gorgeous. The Red Shoes is just otherworldly, right? Black Narcissus, you can't it's like a moving painting.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm very excited. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm very excited to get to next week. And yeah, that's how you watch those films. Please follow us at studiopropertyshow.com. Thank you so much if you're listening in the Rhinebeck area on Radio Free Rhinecliff. And we're your studio property. We'll catch you next week. I'm Doug Wortell.
I'm Devin Irby.
And scene. Studio Property is a production of Spillway Street Content in Red Hook, New York, and syndicated on Radio Free Rhinecliff. Theme song by The Corner Bodega. Visit studiopropertyshow.com to get all up in our beeswax. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
All right, rolling.
America's New Trinity of Love, Dean, Brando, Presley, by Jack Kerouac. Love is sweeping the country. While wars and riots rage all around the world in a vortex that resembles the dying dinosaur age of violence, here within her sweet shores, America is producing a revolution of love. 3 young men of exceptional masculine beauty and compassion and sadness have been upraised by its reaching hands. This is strange, and it is good. Up to now, the American hero has always been on the defensive. He killed Indians and villains and beat up his rivals and surled. He has been good-looking, but never compassionate, except at odd moments and only in stock situations. Now the new American hero, as represented by the trinity of James Dean, Marlon Brando, and Elvis Presley, is the image of compassion in itself. And this makes him more beautiful than ever. It is as though Christ and the Buddha were about to come again with masculine love for the woman at last. All gone are the barriers of asceticism and the barriers of ancient anti-womanism that go deep into primitive religion. It is a revolution of love, and it will become a religion of love. The Garden of Eden might come back in its pristine form. The old American hero fought the devil. The new American hero knows that the devil never existed except in the minds of anxiety. There will be no more tempting of the woman by the devil and no banishment from the paradise on earth. It's got to be. A revolution of love is the positive answer. Banishment of war and the bomb is only a negative answer. There have been revolutions of love before, accomplished always by some isolated individual like Casanova, Valentino, Sinatra. But now the intensity and the need is such that there are more than one. It is not a vain, self-centered thing, but it spreads. This is implicit in the James Dean movie Rebel Without a Cause, where, when the hero and girl sneak off to make love in the empty mansion, leaving the desperate boy alone, Sal Mineo, and all the trouble takes place, Dean says, "We shouldn't have left him alone." The girl says, "But I needed you." And Dean states, "But he needed you too." This is childlike and innocent. Suffer the little ones to come unto me. There is the need all around to be recognized and adored by some other human being. The need all around for kindness, for the ideal of love which does not exclude cruelty, but is all-embracing, non-assertive, simply lovely. Not necessarily the Dionysian orgy, but the tender communion.